people who are ill who don't need to be drives me on. The people who are crushed who don't need to be crushed, who are suppressed who don't need to be suppressed. People in poverty who don't need to be in poverty. They drive me on. But also, what drives me on is seeing people who believe in their own limitation and thus experience that limitation when they are limitlessness. Their limits are only the limits they impose upon themselves, which comes from the perception of themselves. Which is why I go back to what I said earlier. The whole foundation of this conspiracy is controlling perception. If they can control your perception individually and collectively, they got you. They got everything. They've got your behavior. They've got everything. So we've got to take our perceptions back. We've got to take an understanding back of how we interact with reality and realize that we are actually in control, not some external force. The external force is manipulating our reality and thus our experience by hijacking, hacking into the processes through which we create our experience. They're constantly telling us we're little me, we have no power, we have to look up to other people to be told what to think. Oh yeah, consequences if you do that, oh, better not do it then. They're hacking into our perceptual processes. We have to take them back. And when we do, this world will absolutely transform. Because this world that we call the world and how the world is merely a expression, a holographic expression actually, but a computer screen expression, shall we say, of human collective perception. You and me now, we could have a gigantic argument. That's a choice. If my perception of you was a certain way, your perception of me was a certain way, we could have a gigantic argument. But our perceptions of each other are not like that. So we're having a nice chat.
And maybe we choose to select the things that put us in the right direction instead of the things that may bring an argument.
Yeah, exactly. And that you kind of brought up another part of this there, in a way, because there is a difference between this and this.
Sure.
The head, the brain, processes information. And whatever information it receives, it processes. This is why it's possible, very, very possible these days, to externally fire frequencies at people. I mean, this has been known for decades. Fire frequencies at people within the frequency band that the brain works on. And you can put thoughts, perceptions, and thus actions into the minds of people because the brain is processing information. And basically the brain is taking information and it's like you receive information and you come to conclusions from that information.
Yes.
This, the heart, not the physical heart, the energetic heart in the human energetic system here, this is where we get intuition from. So this takes information and tries to work it out. What does it mean? This knows what it means. Why? Because this is connected to a more expanded state of awareness, a more expanded state of the cosmic Wi-Fi field, if you like. And thus it comes from a level that potentially, if we allow it to manifest, from a level that does know. And it doesn't have to work it out. That's why when you get an intuitive feeling, it's not an intuitive, or my intuition's just thinking about it. No, I just know. Look at it. Look at the body language, which tells you so much, because the body's just an expression of the mind. When people say, I just know, they go here, don't they? I just know. I know what I've got to do. And when people say, I'm thinking, they go, I'm thinking. They point to where that's coming from.
Yes.
What's happened, and it's been systematic, is that the head has usurped the heart. The thinking level, the so-called intellect, which is a very low level of perception,
Yes.
has usurped the knowing level of the intuition. And what transformed my life 30 years ago was when I made the decision that when my intuition, knowing, and my thinking were in conflict, I was going to go with my heart. I was going to go with my intuition. And what it does, it gets you into some scrapes, because this is not seeing the world the same way.
Mm-hmm.
This couldn't care less what people say about it. Couldn't, because it sees the big picture and realizes it doesn't matter. And therefore, it's going to take you into areas, and you're going to do things and you're going to say things from here that people who are in here still are going to think are crazy, mad, dangerous, we must silence him. But there comes a point, if you keep going with this is my experience, where this observes the fact, with the passage of events, that when you go with your heart, you might get some challenges. You're bound to, because you're going to be at odds with mainstream society that's coming from here. But it all works out in the end. And it don't just work out despite the challenges, but because of them. And this point comes where this and this think and feel the same. So for a long time now, decades now, when my heart intuition says, I need to do this, this goes, okay, let's go. Whereas in most people, and before, this would say, you can't do that. What will people say about you? What will the people at work say? What about the people down the bar? What were they going to say about you? What about your mother? She'll be upset. And this goes, I just know, so I'm going to do it. And like I say, after a while, this gets it and comes with you. And the war ends, the war between this and this, which is such a disease in the human family.
Well, you almost answered my next question, which is that I'm writing, one of my next books I'm writing on is about fear and how you master and manage your fears or control them. And indeed, it seems even, and you explain it in your book, that we live in an extremely scary world. And fear may block the process you just described, because we're scared to actually put this synchronicity between our thoughts and our feelings. How, you have children, you have friends, you have families, and a vast audience. How would you tell them of a simple way to put that synchronicity? How to do that?
Well, it's not for me to tell them anything. It's for me to put out information and let them decide what they choose to believe, and therefore how they choose to act. The last thing this world needs, because we're drowning in them, is another pseudo-guru saying, I have all the answers, you've got to believe me. This is what you do. My whole philosophy on life is people taking their power back and them deciding what they do and what they think based on the information that they receive. And they make choices and come to perceptions from that. So it's not for me to tell anyone what to do. I can give my own experience as part of this exchange of information. And, it's, it all, in the end, it again comes down to our perceptual state and an understanding of the frequency nature of our reality. You mentioned fear. Well, fear is an emotion we feel in the level of the five senses, which takes people into rigidity, fear. What do people say? He froze with fear. Mm-hmm. Well, what's happening is fear, that perceptual state, is a very, very low, slow frequency. And when that is running through our energetic field, our energy field slows, becomes denser and denser, and the denser it becomes, the less the range that it's interacting with possibility and probability, and it's pulling you into a state of enormous limitation. We experience it in the limitation of, I'm so frightened, I'm not going to speak my truth, or I'm so frightened, I'm just going to run away. But that is just an expression of the energetic level of it, which is this fear frequency is pulling you into density. This is why when you feel depressed and anxious, people say, I feel so heavy today. And then when you feel joy, you say, I feel so light today, because joy is a very high frequency and vibrates your energetic field to that frequency, and you feel light because you're not in density anymore. So fear is an absolute tool of this conspiracy. They want people in fear.